If Wang Mingyang were still here just now, seeing Ding Cheng's performance, he would probably be surprised and say, B-grade steel skin! Those who can awaken supernatural powers within 7 days of the end of the world are actually very talented. B-level steel skin is already much better than most people. In the apocalypse, sometimes awakening first means being able to obtain more crystal nuclei 7 days later. Strength and level will be one step ahead of others. Even with D-level strength enhancement like Zhao Ding, there is still a chance to be promoted quickly. If the opportunity is strong enough, it is not impossible to stand at the top. As for B-level steel skin, only a small number of them could awaken this level of superpower in the 5 years of their previous lives. In the early stages of the apocalypse, steel skin has a very powerful defensive ability, and is very practical. Facing ordinary zombies and mutated creatures, it can basically not break the defense. As long as he doesn't exhaust himself, he can run rampant among the corpses. Ding Qing was really lucky to be able to awaken this ability on the 5th day of the apocalypse. Wang Mingyang controlled the steel overpass, led Suyu and Mu Ningxue, and crossed 3 teaching buildings in succession, and finally saw the library dozens of meters away behind the teaching building. Brother Mingyang, is that the library you want to go to? Suyu pointed to the 5-story building in front of him. Yes, but it's a bit far away and the overpass can't be reached. We have to find another way. Wang Mingyang rubbed his chin and glanced around. There were many zombies gathered in the small square in front of the library. The movement of the car just now didn't seem to attract them. Wang Mingyang estimated that it would take about 3 hours to scan the library's collection of books. Including the time spent cleaning up the zombies in the library, it will probably be almost 5 or 6 o'clock when everything is done. However, Wang Mingyang has no plans to leave Yunnan University. He originally planned to stay in this university for the next few days. There are several universities nearby with libraries inside. Then just find a teacher's dormitory or something to live in. You don't have to worry about food, there is a lot of food and drinking water in the mustard space. There are also many supermarkets, canteens, etc. in the university. Even if they are occupied by others, with their strength, there is no need to worry. There are a lot of zombies in the library. Are you still going to use the previous method? Mu Ningxue looked at the surrounding environment and said with some uncertainty. Forget it, there are not too many zombies here. After the zombies in the teaching area calm down for a while, we will try to clean them up and give you some practice. Wang Mingyang shook his head, walked to the other side of the rooftop, lay on the fence, and looked at the teaching building below him. There are far fewer zombies below, most of them were attracted by the movement just now. With him taking care of the remaining zombies, they can give Suyu and Mu Ningxue some training. The 2 women looked at each other and shrugged helplessly. They stood together with their backs against the fence, just watching Wang Mingyang glance left and right. Take a rest and we should be able to start in half an hour. Wang Mingyang straightened up, sat down on the fence, took out a cigarette from his pocket and lit one. Okay, you have the final say. Mu Ningxue nodded slightly and took Suyu to find a corner to sit down. On the 5th floor of the library opposite, a young man with a ponytail, a blue t-shirt, and cloth shoes was holding a philosophy book and reading it with relish. Several bookshelves were knocked down, and books were scattered all over the floor. There was still a lot of blood on the ground, but there was no body in sight. The young man stretched himself, and out of the corner of his eye, through the gap in the curtains, he suddenly spotted several figures on the rooftop opposite, and he couldn't help but let out a light sigh. Opening the curtains slightly, the young man leaned over and saw clearly the 3 figures opposite. But only the backs of the 2 girls were seen, and the other young man was Wang Mingyang. Oh, he's quite handsome, but unfortunately, he's even worse than me. The young man chuckled, gently smoothed his bangs with his fingers, and glanced at the corpses in the small square. There are so many of these zombies. It's a pity that there are so many cute girls, ugh. With a slight sigh, the young man lazily sat back in his chair, picked up the book and continued to read. Half an hour later, Wang Mingyang stood up on the rooftop, patted his butt, and 4 flying swords flew out of his pocket. Let's go! Let's fight our way through. Oh. Okay. Su Yu and Mu Ningxue quickly stood up and grabbed the horizontal knife leaning against the wall. Pushing open the iron door of the rooftop, Wang Mingyang took the lead and walked down. 4 flying swords were suspended beside him. When he turned the corner, Wang Mingyang caught a glimpse of 2 zombies in the corridor. Immediately, 2 flying swords shot away, piercing the heads of 2 zombies respectively. I'll leave the rest to you, I'll hold the line. Su Yu and Mu Ningxue nodded and walked down the stairs holding horizontal knives. Mu Ningxue skillfully applied an ice shield to Su Yu. Su Yu held a knife in both hands and looked around at the stairs. The blade of the knife tapped against the wall, and the sound quickly attracted zombies on both sides of the corridor. A dark flame emerged from Su Yu's palm, wrapped around the blade, and slashed diagonally at the zombies on the right. The dark red sword light flew out, and several zombies were immediately cut in half. Several ice picks were shot out, piercing the heads of the 2 zombies running towards the corridor on the left. The corpses crawled along the corridor with inertia. After 2 days of fighting, the 2 women clearly had a much better understanding of each other. After dealing with the zombies in the corridor, and seeing that no zombies rushed out of the classroom, Su Yu turned around and walked downstairs. Encountering a small number of zombies along the way, Wang Mingyang stood aside and let Su Yu and Mu Ningxue deal with them. Only when he encounters more than 10 zombies attacking them at the same time, he will take action to deal with them quickly. Under the fire of the 4 flying swords, except for the zombies he deliberately released, the rest of the zombies were accurately pierced through the heads by the flying swords, killing them with 1 blow. The 3 of them followed the stairs and quickly reached the first floor. They didn't care if there were any survivors in the building. Under the control of Wang Mingyang, Feijian quietly cleared away the 20 zombies near the stairs. Wang Mingyang took the 2 women and retreated into the stairwell. Bodies were lying on the ground outside, and there was no zombie standing within 30 meters. Along the back door of the stairwell, Wang Mingyang took a look at the zombies in the small square. It seemed that there were at least 200 of them. There are a lot of zombies in this small square. Let's clean them up as soon as possible and keep the noise as low as possible. Su Yu, don't use your explosive sword, Wang Mingyang ordered in a low voice. I know! Su Yu nodded. That move had good lethality, but it would produce a big explosion and attract zombies left in the teaching area. I'm in charge of the front. Su Yu is on the left and Mu Ningxue is on the right. Don't leave the 10 meters around me. After Wang Mingyang finished speaking, without waiting for the 2 women to respond, mustard seed space was activated, and a ball of titanium alloy metal quietly appeared in his pocket. Stepping out of the back door of the stairwell, a path leads directly to the small square. The 3 of Wang Mingyang walked less than 10 meters when several zombies on the edge of the square discovered them. After a few dull roars, the zombies rushed over with their bloody mouths open, swinging their mutilated bodies. With a thought in Wang Mingyang's mind, the metal ball in his pocket quickly turned into a dozen small flying swords, and together with the original 4 flying swords, they shot at the zombies. The movement of a few zombies on the edge instantly woke up the rest of the wandering zombies. The terrifying faces turned in the direction of Wang Mingyang and the others, and a low growl like spitting came out of their throats. The next moment, the zombies surged, and the tide of zombies quickly rushed towards the 3 of them. With the flying sword array in front, Wang Mingyang focused his eyes and controlled a dozen flying swords within a range of 20 to 30 meters. This distance becomes a dead area, and most zombies will fall in this area. A small number of zombies ran over quickly, and Su Yu and Mu Ningxue quickly stepped forward to deal with them. In order to limit the speed of the zombies, Mu Ningxue centered on herself, and a circle of ice chips quickly spread, lowering the temperature within 5 meters of the surrounding area. Any zombie that steps into this range will have a layer of frost appear on the surface of its body, and its movement speed will drop significantly. Su Yu stepped forward with his knife and quickly dealt with the slowed-down zombies. This is a new skill that Mu Ningxue developed when she and Su Yu were cleaning houses. The cost is a bit high, and it is currently more suitable for group attacks. If you want to point it at a target alone, further improvements are needed. However, it is quite appropriate to use it here. Wang Mingyang and Su Yu, who are near Mu Ningxue, are not affected at all. It was obvious that Mu Ningxue had good control over this skill, and could at least distinguish between friend and foe. In this way, the zombies nearby were basically no threat, and Wang Mingyang also let go. More than 10 flying swords flew out of his pockets again, a total of 27 flying swords flying through the air. However, Wang Mingyang did not choose to kill these zombies, but cut off the zombies' hands and feet as accurately as possible, leaving the torso and head. Zombies lay on the ground one after another, and their broken limbs were scattered all over the ground like repaired branches. Although Su Yu and Mu Ningxue were puzzled, this was not the time to ask questions. They were already used to doing things first, and then asking questions. Half an hour later, the three of them finally eliminated the zombies in the small square. Even the small number of zombies attracted by the movement in the library turned into zombies lying on the ground. There are nearly 300 zombies, and most of them have turned into this ghostly appearance. Otherwise, with the speed at which Wang Mingyang's 27 flying swords shuttled back and forth, it would only take a few minutes to defeat this group of zombies. Mu Ningxue looked at the blood on the ground with disgust, and tiptoed towards the library. Wherever you step on the road, whatever you encounter will be frozen to avoid being bitten by zombies and not getting stained with blood. Su Yu silently gave a thumbs up and followed Mu Ningxue's footsteps. Wang Mingyang touched his nose and followed helplessly. I was thinking about how to explain this strange behavior. We can't directly say that in the next 2 days, crystal nuclei will appear in the brains of these ordinary zombies. This is too obvious. By then everyone will know that there must be something wrong with Wang Mingyang. I wonder if I can extract the divination technique by reading the Book of Changes. Then I can attribute everything to supernatural powers. Wang Mingyang thought about it hopefully, but it was just a thought. Reading the Book of Changes will kill many brain cells. The gain is not worth the loss. If you have the energy, you can directly create a few S-level abilities, or upgrade the space cutting to a high level, and simply use force to defeat everything. Brother Mingyang, why don't you just kill those zombies? Sure enough, as soon as the three of them entered the library, Su Yu asked Wang Mingyang the reason why he cut the stick. Wang Mingyang coughed twice, already having a plan in mind and not panicking at all. Well, I guess that big rat can activate the rat tide to raise goo. If we put these zombie sticks here, maybe we can spawn a few first-order mutant creatures. When we encounter it, we can kill it directly and we can still get 2 crystal nuclei. Su Yu covered his mouth and smiled. You're not afraid of creating another second-level mutant rat king? It'll be up to you what you do then. What are you afraid of at the second level? If we encounter one now, I will definitely not be the unlucky one. Wang Mingyang raised the corner of his mouth. His current strength is really worthy of that big rat. Okay. Even if you are not afraid of the second level, what if it attracts the third level? Mu Ningxue was obviously worried. These are ordinary zombies. They don't have a crystal core in their brains. Let alone the third level, they can't even look down on the second level. Wang Mingyang shook his head and continued. But it is different below the first level, and the effect is still very large. But even if a first-level mutated creature does appear, how will you kill it? Do you plan to squat here and wait for it? Mu Ningxue's eyes turned and she looked at Wang Mingyang. It's not impossible to wait and see, but I don't have any plans at the moment, so I'll just make a random move. Whether it will work or not depends on luck. Wang Mingyang smiled lightly, not seeming to care that much. His real purpose is not the so-called first-order mutant creature. It would be true to wait until 2 days later to harvest a wave of leaks. The empty library hall was filled with collapsed bookshelves and various books scattered on the floor. The entire library has 5 floors, divided into 2 areas, east and west. The first floor is for literature and art, history, geography and comprehensive books. The second floor is for military, culture and education. The third floor is for computer technology, automation technology, mathematics, physics and chemistry and other science books. The fourth floor is for language, literature and foreign languages. Books, as well as various rare and ancient books, and the fifth floor are religious classics, social sciences, and philosophy books and periodicals. Just wait for me on the first floor. Find a rest area and have some coffee or something. After Wang Mingyang finished giving instructions to Su Yu and Mu Ningxue, he walked straight to the bookshelf. System, start scanning. Books detected, range 5 meters, start scanning. Su Yu shrugged and pulled Mu Ningxue, who was a little confused, straight to the rest area in the corner. She was already a little surprised by this scene. Is he really planning to read here? Mu Ningxue turned around and glanced doubtfully. That's right. I was in the provincial library and followed him for more than 3 hours. Su Yu nodded. Is he a little crazy? It doesn't count. Have you read the 2 books he gave you before? I read one. Is it useful? Don't tell me, it's really useful. Mu Ningxue thought of something and nodded silently. Really, I thought he was teasing you, Su Yu said in surprise. My deceleration move was based on the inspiration I got from the book, Frozen Water Ice. He gave me. Mu Ningxue recalled the contents of the book and smiled slightly. So, the reason why he is so strong is really related to how much he has read. Su Yu sat down at a small round table and looked at Wang Mingyang's slowly walking figure with his hands on his chin, saying with some yearning, It must be related. The fundamentals of metal science, and a brief history of time he often reads are all related to his superpowers. Mu Ningxue casually inserted the horizontal knife into the chair beside her, folded her arms and said calmly, It's a pity that he didn't recommend any books to me. Su Yu was a little disappointed. Her superpower had dual attributes. Wang Mingyang said that she just needed to practice more for the time being. You should practice more. I think reading can only increase your cognition and open your mind. Your ability is very lethal, but what you lack is energy reserve. If you can release it dozens or hundreds of times, why do you need any skills? Mu Ningxue smiled slightly. When the two of them cooperated, Su Yu's dark flame ability was indeed more powerful. It's a pity that the number of releases is less, otherwise Su Yu would be able to kill through the entire residential area without her assistance at all. It's so difficult. I can't release the 5 swords until now, and it will take years and years to reach the level you mentioned. Su Yu sighed and lay directly on the round table. Keep it up. If we can get more of that kind of crystal core, wouldn't the improvement speed be much faster? That's right, Brother Mingyang absorbed 1 and was directly promoted to the 1st level. The steel needles were replaced by flying swords. Well, just lay a good foundation. He was much better than us before he was promoted. Mu Ningxue narrowed her eyes slightly and looked at Wang Mingyang with a look of unwillingness to admit defeat. He awakened much earlier than us, he must be stronger than us. Su Yu's eyes lit up, remembering the time when Wang Mingyang took her out of the provincial library and went to Liuhe Baoli Hotel. Speaking of which, when did he awaken his superpower? Mu Ningxue sat up straight and looked directly at Su Yu. I don't know the specific time, but Brother Mingyang said that he awakened on the day of the end of the world. Su Yu recalled the communication process with Wang Mingyang. At that time, Wang Mingyang did say that he was an alien who awakened that day. Abel. That's only a few hours ahead of you, and 1 day ahead of me. Is this time difference that big? Mu Ningxue asked, confused. Su Yu shook his head. I think the problem is not here, but that Brother Mingyang seems to have thought more, so he can teach us how to train our abilities. Indeed, superpowers are not as static as the skills in the game. After mastering them, different abilities can be derived. Haha, so Brother Mingyang is right to let you study. Otherwise, there is nothing you can do to use the ability to slow down in that range. I think your ability can be like this. The two women kept mumbling, and Wang Mingyang kept walking between the bookshelves. The system quickly scanned all kinds of books, and there were more and more books in the library in my mind. However, during this scan, Wang Mingyang also discovered a problem. Many books were duplicates of those previously collected in the provincial library. System, how to deal with these duplicate books? After scanning all the books, the system will automatically check for duplication, and only one book with the same content will be kept in the library. Well, it seems that this worry is unnecessary. The system is quite smart, and has its own duplication checking function, which makes it much simpler. Otherwise, the dazzling array of books listed together would be dazzling, and there is really no need to add more repetitions. After quickly scanning the first floor, Wang Mingyang greeted the two women and walked upstairs. Scanning of the second floor completed. Scanning of the third floor completed. Scanning of the fourth floor completed. It took 2 hours to scan all 4 floors. Wang Mingyang breathed a long sigh of relief and controlled several flying swords to push away the zombie corpses blocking the way on the stairs. As soon as he stepped out, his body suddenly froze. There seems to be something vaguely wrong. Wang Mingyang frowned and looked around. The entire 4th floor bookshelf collapsed. There are still many corpses lying on the ground, and the bloody and mutilated limbs are what they should be. But on the 5th day of the apocalypse, these corpses still didn't smell bad. This shows that these corpses should have been formed only yesterday. Some of the zombies were killed by Wang Mingyang just now, and the corpses of other zombies would not be older than yesterday. The zombie's body is not actually dead, but its consciousness has been eroded and turned into a walking zombie. Therefore, even if the weather is hot, except for the gradual decay of the wounds, the entire body of the corpses is still normal and does not emit corpse odor. Of course, the place where flesh and blood and limbs were everywhere had already started to stink. In his previous life, Wang Mingyang had long been accustomed to this stench. After his rebirth, he never paid much attention to this problem. But just now, he suddenly discovered that there was a difference. Could it be that this 4th floor has been cleaned? Wang Mingyang observed the corpse on the stairs and scanned the surrounding environment. His eyes gradually became serious, and there were many smash marks on the wall. Some zombies' heads seemed to have been smashed by bookshelves, and several wrought iron stools' legs were stuck in their heads. This looks very man-made. Wang Mingyang silently opened the mustard seed space, and a large ball of metal floated out, quickly melting into a silver-white molten metal. Stretching out his arms, Wang Mingyang controlled the metal liquid to spread throughout his body. Except for his eyes, ears, mouth, and nose, his whole body was covered with a thin layer of titanium alloy. Due to the lack of Iron Man's mecha drawings, Wang Mingyang could only leave the joints out to avoid affecting the movement. After doing this layer of protection, Wang Mingyang took more than 20 flying swords and walked up the stairs. The sound of metal friction sounded, and the hall on the 5th floor gradually appeared in front of you. When Wang Mingyang stood still in the hall, a stool suddenly flew out from the corner and hit him on the head. He clenched his fist with his right hand and smashed it hard. The wooden stool suddenly fell into pieces and sawdust flew into the air. Wang Mingyang turned around unnaturally and looked around. This temporary metal shell had good protection, but its flexibility was much poorer. Another table flew towards him, and Wang Mingyang didn't bother to smash it with his hands. It hurt. 3 flying swords shot out from beside him, immediately cutting the table into 4 pieces. The flying sword crossed the table and shot straight to the corner more than 10 meters away. A young man with a ponytail stood there with a stunned look on his face. The moment he saw the man's figure clearly, Wang Mingyang trembled all over, and 3 flying swords suddenly stopped in front of the young man. An invisible force resisted the 3 flying swords. The sword tips seemed to be pierced on a thin film, pushing out 3 small pointed cones of air. Following Wang Mingyang's thought, 3 flying swords drew an arc and flew back. The young man's clenched teeth were immediately released, and he took a deep breath, and the film disappeared immediately. "Why, you attacked me!" Wang Mingyang looked at the familiar figure in front of him and didn't even notice that his voice was trembling. "I'm really sorry. I just have a temporary itch and want to try my hand at it." The young man slowed down his heartbeat and showed an embarrassed smile. The metal armor on his body slowly melted, revealing Wang Mingyang's handsome cheeks. "I don't think these 2 strikes are just a test of your hands. If I can't catch it, the table can smash my head. Didn't you catch it? I saw your fight just now, and I have confidence in your strength." The young man reached out and touched his ponytail and smiled. What's your name and why are you here? Wang Mingyang secretly put away the metal ball made of melted armor, suppressed the throbbing in his heart, nodded, and asked calmly. Heavenly Lord of immeasurable blessings. His name is Liu Chan, and he is a disciple of Changchun Guanzhong in Ulshan County, Nanzhao City. The young man's face was solemn. He stood up straight with his legs together, held Tai Chi seals with his hands, leaned over slightly and saluted with Ziwuju. A flash of recollection flashed in Wang Mingyang's eyes, and then a bad smile appeared on his face. He placed his fists on his right chest and leaned forward slightly to return the salute. Bow bow, Taoist priest is compassionate. Skin baby. Liu Chan's face darkened when he heard this. He could no longer maintain his Taoist master's demeanor. His neck became stiff, and the veins on his forehead jumped. You damn bastard, how do you know I'm not the cicada? Then are you the toad of Toad? Wang Mingyang put his hands on his back and walked forward slowly with 8-character steps. His lips couldn't suppress the pride. I'm a toad's toad, but you can't give me such a nickname as soon as we meet. Liu Chan's face stiffened and he argued forcefully. The problem is, you didn't tell me your ID number. Wang Mingyang spread his hands and said helplessly, with a smile on his lips. I haven't given you a number yet. Liu Chan was speechless again, feeling speechless for a moment. I can't help complaining in my heart, it's all that stinky old guy's fault. He had to let him finish college and get his diploma before he was given a Taoist number. It's really. And take a look, what are the common names here? He has been ridiculed for being a skinny boy more than once. Even this guy, whom he had just met for the first time, understood his true name accurately. If I choose the name Liu Chan, even though it's a bit girly, it still makes sense. Okay, Lei Bao, it's because you don't have a nickname, so I can only call you this. It's so smooth. Wang Mingyang didn't take it seriously at all. He walked up to Liu Chan and put his arms around his shoulders, with a familiar look on his face. Hey, we don't know each other very well, don't be like this. Liu Chan quickly broke away from Wang Mingyang's arm, quickly took a few steps back, and patted his shoulder with a look of disgust. Holy shit, what do you mean? You don't want to be friends with me? Come on, let's calculate the debt for your sneak attack on me. Wang Mingyang shouted, and with a wave of his hand, more than 20 flying swords around him flew up at the same time, all pointing at Liu Chan. No. I was wrong. In fact, I really want to be friends with you. Liu Chan suddenly broke out in cold sweat, waved his hands repeatedly, and said with a tangled look on his face. Really? Don't lie to me? Real. Truer than gold. TCH, with your kidney-deficient look on your face, how can you really do that? Liu Chan's face darkened, as if something was stuck in his throat, and he didn't know whether to say some dirty words or not. With a thought in Wang Mingyang's mind, the flying sword flew back again, quietly flying into his pocket and entering the mustard space. However, for the sake of your sincerity, I forgive you. When Liu Chan heard this, his face was tangled for a while, but he also realized that the person in front of him obviously didn't really want to embarrass him. What's your name? Wang Mingyang. Wang Mingyang? Ocean of oceans, don't forget it. Wang Mingyang waved his hand, turned on the system scan, and continued walking among the bookshelves. Why are you here? There is nothing to eat or drink. Liu Chan asked in confusion as he looked at Wang Mingyang's figure wandering around. Come here to read some books. What about you, why are you here? Wang Mingyang replied without looking back, constantly sorting out his thoughts in his mind. In his previous life, Wang Mingyang met Liu Chan 1 year after the end of the world. During the time when Wang Mingyang got along with Liu Chan did not look down on him at all. Wang Mingyang, who was a third-level superpower at that time, saved Wang Mingyang from danger more than once. Because of their similar personalities, the two became close friends. At that time, Taoist priest Lei Bao was already a powerful 5th-level spiritual power user, and what he had awakened was the telekinesis power and the spiritual system. It stands to reason that with Liu Chan's potential, he can definitely become a 9th-level powerhouse and dominate one side in the future. It is a pity that Liu Yuqian finally fell into the hands of a corpse emperor in a major event in the 3rd year of the apocalypse. Wang Mingyang did not expect that in this life, he would be on the 5th floor of the Dian University Library on the 5th day of the end of the world. In advance, he met his good brother from his previous life, a Taoist disciple whom he had always jokingly called the Taoist master Lei Bao. Liu Yuqian. When the zombies broke out, I was reading here. Liu Yuqian replied matter-of-factly. When did you awaken your spiritual power? Wang Mingyang was speechless. There was nothing wrong with this answer. How do you know that I have mental power? Liu Yuqian asked curiously. If it's not mental power, how can it be controlled by the wood element? Wang Mingyang rolled his eyes and mocked. Liu Yuqian glanced at the torn wooden tables and chairs on the ground and scratched his head. Haha! Not long after the zombies broke out, I awakened this ability. It's quite useful. The answer to awakening supernatural powers on the first day of the apocalypse is the same as what Wang Mingyang asked in the previous life. In this life, he will definitely not let Liu Yuqian make the same mistake again, and will keep him by his side no matter what. Now Wang Mingyang is fully capable of protecting and cultivating him. And Wang Mingyang also knew very well that the power that Liu Yuqian awakened was the A-level telekinesis power Tai Divine Mind. This name was chosen by Liu Yuqian himself. In his words, as a disciple of Taoism, how can the powers he awakens not have something to do with Taoism? Tai Divine Mind is extremely powerful. Compared with the 5 to 10 meter control range of other telepathic powers when awakened, Tai Divine Mind's initial control range reaches 20 meters. Liu Yuqian continued to hone his spiritual power based on the theories recorded in Taoist classics. This makes his powers become more and more powerful, and various methods of use are derived, with endless magical uses. To put it simply, Liu Yuqian's ability is not to be able to shape various metal objects like Wang Mingyang. Give him some flying swords, and Liu Yuqian can be like Wang Mingyang, waving his hand and making a rain of swords fill the sky, making him a true swordsman in the world. Under the same conditions, Liu Yuqian's Tai Divine Sense can only do better than Wang Mingyang in controlling details. The speed and power of the flying sword's piercing are even stronger than Wang Mingyang's metal control ability. Did you clean up the zombies on the 4th floor? Why didn't you see any corpses on the 5th floor? Wang Mingyang asked calmly. Oh, I went to the 4th floor to find food before, and I cleaned up the ones on the 5th floor. I threw them downstairs. I've been here for a few days, but I can't bear to be mixed with a bunch of corpses. Liu Yuqian nodded and said with a disgusted face. You haven't gone out these days? No, there is food and drink in the rest area anyway. There are too many zombies outside, I can't rush out. Wang Mingyang shook his head. He had just awakened his superpower, and Liu Yuqian had not explored enough how to use Tai's divine mind. Otherwise, how could he not be able to get out? But this is also a blessing. It is precisely because he did not leave the library that Wang Mingyang can meet Liu Yuqian now. This means that Wang Mingyang has more opportunities and time. Let this talented brother from his previous life take off directly on the spot. Wang Mingyang scanned the last area, turned around and asked. I'll be leaving soon, what are your plans? I don't know. I came here to study and I haven't gotten my diploma yet. I can't go back to Changchun in this situation, Liu Yuqian said helplessly. Haha, don't think about it, you will probably never get this diploma in your life. Wang Mingyang immediately exclaimed. What time has it been? This guy still wants to get a diploma. Probably because the unlucky Master Liu Yuqian told him that he won't be given a number without a diploma. No way! Are these zombies finished? Definitely, the end of the world has arrived. Brother, Yunnan University has become history. It's like this. It's impossible for the government not to take rescue measures. Liu Yuqian still held a trace of fantasy. Wang Mingyang pondered for a moment, shook his head and said, Actually, in this case, I think the army also suffered heavy losses. It is not easy to reorganize the forces to carry out rescue. It's already the 5th day, it should be soon. So what if the government can rescue you? They're just sending people under the fence. If they find out about your telekinesis, they might let you go to the construction site to move bricks. Wang Mingyang had a bad smile on his face. Li Yuchan's move of bricks really happened in his previous life. In the early days of the apocalypse, it seemed that the shelter established by the army at that time was besieged by zombies. When there was a gap in the defense line, Li Yuchan, who could manipulate objects in a wide range, was directly recruited to move rocks to plug the gap. Tai's spiritual consciousness, which has not yet become powerful, has been reduced to a construction site trolley. Damn it, with such an impressive ability it's too cheap to move bricks, Li Yuchan said speechlessly. Then where are you going? If not, I'll do it with you. This is obviously the result Wang Mingyang wants, but he still needs to vaccinate Li Yuchan first. You can follow us, but you have to follow my orders from now on. Can you do that? You mean you want me to recognize you as the boss? Li Yuchan tilted his head and looked at Wang Mingyang. Absolutely. Do you think I'm not qualified? Wang Mingyang turned around with a smile on his face, and the 4 remaining flying swords beside him trembled slightly. Yes, I will listen to you from now on. Li Yuchan looked at the 4 flying swords that were vaguely pointed at him. Although he knew that Wang Mingyang was joking, he couldn't help but twitch the corners of his mouth and nodded helplessly. Ha! That's good, you can follow me from now on. Keep your favorite and spicy food. Wang Mingyang laughed. The 4 flying swords turned into 4 silver beads and fell into his pocket, and he continued to scan the remaining books with satisfaction. When Li Yuchan saw Wang Mingyang turn around, he shook his head and smiled helplessly. He had awakened his spiritual power, and his personal perception was relatively sharp. He knew very well that Wang Mingyang had no hostility towards him just now. However, during this brief exchange, Wang Mingyang's temperament suited him very well. After a while, Wang Mingyang finally scanned the entire library of books. Full of harvest, after eliminating some duplicate books, Wang Mingyang's system library added hundreds of thousands of books. It also includes many out-of-print ancient books, but it is estimated that such books are of little use. There are also those literary novel books, which do not contain much knowledge and are mostly the author's fantasy. The chance of extracting superpowers from such books should be very small, and like the previous book, Flatland, Wang Mingyang hasn't had time to read it yet. However, this book has a rich imagination about space, and many ideas are based on real space knowledge. Wang Mingyang judged that after reading it, he should have a lot of inspiration for himself. For this type of novel, Wang Mingyang did not give up completely, but listed it as the second level in the reading order. Think of it as a way to relieve stress after studying hard. Return to the rest area and say hello to Li Yuchan. Come on, Lei Bao, let's get out of here. Damn it, Wang Mingyang, can you please stop calling me that? Li Yuchan, who was reading with his legs crossed, suddenly felt bad. I know, Lei Bao, there are 2 girls waiting for me below. Are you going to leave or not? Wang Mingyang waved his hand, not caring. Let's go. Li Yuchan thought for a moment and thought, forget it, for the sake of having a girl, I won't be as knowledgeable as you. Wang Mingyang shook his head, smiled, and was about to turn around and walk downstairs. Li Yuchan patted his butt and threw the philosophy book on the table. The 5 characters of Women's Heart Attack are clearly listed. Wang Mingyang's mouth twitched slightly as he caught sight of the large words on the cover from the corner of his eye. As expected of you, Lei Bao. You are always ready to eat swan meat. In fact, in his last life, Wang Mingyang knew that Li Yuchan was a carefree person on the outside but extremely rich on the inside. This little Taoist priest who called everyone the God of Infinite Blessings. Although he usually liked to comment on all kinds of beauties with him, he didn't even break the boy's skills until his death. The 2 quickly went downstairs and walked to the lobby on the 1st floor. Wang Mingyang shouted directly to the 2 women. Su Yu and Mu Ningxue quickly stood up and walked towards Wang Mingyang, when they suddenly saw Li Yuchan walking down the stairs behind Wang Mingyang. The 2 people's bodies suddenly paused, and their fingers holding the Hangdao tightened. Don't be nervous, this is Li Yuchan, you can just call him Lei Bao. Wang Mingyang turned sideways, pointed at Liu Chan and said, "Skinny baby?" Su Yu and Mu Ningxue looked at each other, somewhat speechless. "Ahem, immeasurable blessing God! You two beauties, don't listen to his nonsense. My name is Liu Chan, and I am a disciple of Changchun Temple in Yushan County, Nanzhou City." Liu Chan's face darkened, he rolled his eyes at Wang Mingyang, coughed twice, took 2 steps forward, and saluted the 2 women. "Oh, hello, Taoist priest!" Su Yu was a little at a loss when he saw Liu Chan saluting so solemnly. "Taoist master, have mercy!" Mu Ningxue returned the gesture with clasped fists, obviously knowing some Taoist etiquette. Standing up straight, Liu Chan smiled and returned to his normal posture. "Lei Bao is our new member and has officially joined our team," Wang Mingyang said calmly. "Su Yu." Mu Ningxue. Liu Chan kept smiling. He had given up on changing this man, but the 2 beauties in front of him still needed to be saved. "You can just call me Liu Chan, or Shaoli. You don't need to call me Taoist priest. I haven't officially become a registered Taoist priest yet. Bao Bao is very kind." Su Yu blinked and looked at Mu Ningxue. The 2 women covered their mouths and chuckled at the same time. Liu Chan had a black line on his head and sighed helplessly. Sure enough, those who are close to Mo will always be darker. "Okay, I won't tease you anymore, let's call you Shaoli. My name is Mu Ningxue." Mu Ningxue smiled and introduced herself. "My name is Su Yu. I am 22 years old. If you are younger than me, I will call you Shaoli." Su Yu looked at Liu Chan and said with a smile, "Hello, 2 beauties, I'm 21 this year, just call me Shaoli." Liu Chan was overjoyed when he heard this, and nodded and bowed to say hello. He was not as elegant as the Taoist disciple just now. It seems that these 2 beauties still take care of his face. Thinking of this, Liu Chan even raised his eyebrows at Wang Mingyang. "Okay, we all know each other." Wang Mingyang nodded, not bothering to pay attention to Liu Chan's little movements. Liu Chan has a spiritual power and is very powerful. With his joining, our next actions will be safer. Brother Mingyang, what are we going to do next? Wang Mingyang glanced at the clock hanging on the wall of the hall. "It's already a little late now. I'm going to find a place to stay first, and then look for the Biology Research Laboratory of Yunnan University." Biological Research Laboratory? The other 3 people were stunned at the same time. This target was a bit out of the blue. Wang Mingyang nodded affirmatively, with a calm tone. "That's right, it's the Biological Laboratory. Lei Bao, you're studying in college here, do you know where this Biological Laboratory is?" Wang Mingyang looked at Liu Chan. There were many research laboratories in Yunnan University, but he didn't know the specific locations. He could only place his hope on Liu Chan, who was studying here. "This? I haven't noticed it. Who knows, probably only the teachers and students of the Department of Life Sciences. I know some information, but I don't know the specific location." Mu Ningxue thought for a while and said, "It doesn't matter, tell me." Wang Mingyang looked surprised. This girl knows a little bit about everything. Dian University has many biological research laboratories, including paleontology, biodiversity, animal genetics, plants, and other research departments. There are also many cooperation with the outside world, and most of the research laboratories are in other places. Mu Ningxue smoothed her hair from her temples, and seeing Wang Mingyang frowning, she continued, "I don't know what kind of laboratory you are looking for, but the ones on the main campus should be for research on biological genes and animal genetics." "Room." Wang Mingyang nodded when he heard this. "Absolutely, I need to verify some things. I don't know the specific location. Find a guide sign and go directly to the School of Life Sciences. There will definitely be survivors there. Just let them lead the way." Mu Ningxue looked calm. "I know the location of the School of Life Sciences, it's a bit far from here." Liu Chan raised his hand and said, "Well, you know the location, that's great. Let's find a place to stay first, and then go there." Wang Mingyang smiled slightly. Now that the 7th day of the apocalypse is over, there is still enough time to do something. "Where to stay? Do you just want to have a meal, or are you planning to stay for a few days?" Liu Chan asked. Well, let's stay for a few days first. We still have some things to deal with at Dian University. That's easy. Just find a teacher's apartment. It's more spacious. Well, let's go directly to the School of Life Sciences and find the nearest dormitory building. Wang Mingyang made the final decision, and the other 3 people didn't care and just followed his instructions. The zombies outside the library had been cleaned up by Wang Mingyang and the others before, and some wandered over from other places one after another. The 4 of them walked out of the library, and Wang Mingyang grabbed a handful of small metal balls from his pocket. With Liu Chan's stunned expression, he shaped it into 9 flying swords like dough and handed them directly to him. Here, this is a control object for you. Tables, chairs, and benches are not so easy to kill zombies. Liu Chan took over the flying sword with a face of surprise. It was not that heavy to start with. The flying sword made of titanium alloy was good in terms of sharpness and toughness. The biggest advantage was that it was light. This will save Liu Chan a lot of mental energy loss. His Tai divine sense is different from Wang Mingyang's metal control. It is a purely mental power. When awakening the power, the physical strengthening is limited, but the mental power will increase significantly. Thank you, it is indeed very practical. Liu Chan tried to control these 9 flying swords. After trying it, he suddenly found that 9 flying swords happened to be the most suitable number for him to operate at present. In the extreme state, this number can of course be increased a lot, but the mental loss will increase and it will be very tiring. Su Yu and Mu Ningxue looked at each other with confusion in their eyes. Based on their understanding of Wang Mingyang these days, he seems to have too much trust in Liu Chan, and he doesn't even mean to test. Although they were confused, both women kept silent. This team has Wang Mingyang as the core from the beginning, and the 2 women know their positions very well. Let's go, find a place to live first. Wang Mingyang drew the horizontal sword MOing. Now with Liu Chan and Mu Ningxue, there were already 3 long-range shooters. Although it is very lethal, Wang Mingyang still wants to try his current physical strength. In his previous life, when he was promoted to the 5th level, he relied more on the strength of his physical body. After all, his 5 major powers were really worn down. Close combat prowess was what he relied on for survival before. In this life, even if you have the Zhutian reading system, you can absorb all kinds of powerful powers. However, Wang Mingyang felt that aside from supernatural powers, his own combat effectiveness could not be ignored. Taking the lead to walk out along the passage in front of the library, Wang Mingyang chose the other side instead of returning to the teaching area. There are now a large number of zombies gathered there, and there is really no need to clean them up at the moment. 2 days later, these are all mature leaks. Go straight along this road. There is an intersection. The School of Life Sciences is to the north. After walking through this passage, Liu Chan pointed to the left. Over there? It seems, but the intersection is too close to the teaching building of the School of Information, so there must be a lot of zombies. Wang Mingyang looked in the direction of Liu Chan's finger, searched for the memory in his mind, and frowned. Indeed, but there is a supermarket and a large canteen over there, and the dormitories of several nearby colleges are also over there. Liu Chan introduced the situation. There isn't much food in the backpack, so I have to get it locally. Let's go to the supermarket first. Wang Mingyang thought for a while. He didn't want to be exposed in mustard seed space for the time being. He carried a backpack before going out. He really didn't bring much. Don't worry about the big cafeteria. This is already the 5th day, and the food in it may have spoiled long ago. Okay, you have the final say. Liu Chan spread his hands, looking indifferent. Then let's go, be careful on the road. Wang Mingyang walked toward the intersection. There were not many zombies along the way, but he didn't take the initiative to do anything. Liu Chan and Mu Ningxue became the main force, and the scattered zombies were killed by the 2 of them more than 10 meters away. As they approached the intersection, Wang Mingyang greeted them and led the 3 of them along the way under the trees and around the corners. Trying to avoid fighting zombies along the way, the 4 of them stopped and walked, quietly crossing the intersection and walking towards the north. It seems that because of the little noise Wang Mingyang made before, many nearby zombies were attracted away. After walking for 500 meters and arriving near the teaching building of the School of Information, the number of zombies gradually increased. Wang Mingyang squatted behind the slope and glanced around. There are dozens of zombies downstairs in the teaching building, and there are many more in the corridor upstairs. We will go forward along the wall on the first floor later. Compared to the front square of the teaching building, Wang Mingyang prefers to go through the back door. Although this will deviate a little from the direction, there will be many fewer zombies to clean up. The three of them nodded and followed Wang Mingyang closely. Wang Mingyang crouched and ran quickly to the wall more than 10 meters away, encountering 2 zombies along the way. Before Liu Chan and Mu Ningxue could take action, the black shadow of the horizontal knife quickly slashed across the necks of the 2 zombies. The 2 heads rolled down with a rumble, and the bodies slowly collapsed. Su Yu and the other 3 followed closely behind, crouching low, quickly avoiding the zombies in the square, and rushed straight into the shadow of the teaching building. Following the wall of the teaching building, the 4 people cleared away a small number of zombies and gradually approached the other end of the teaching building. When passing the last classroom on the first floor, 2 faces were suddenly posted on the window. Yeah! There's someone! Su Yu accidentally glanced at the window and was immediately startled by these 2 faces. Wang Mingyang looked up and saw 2 boys with surprised faces on the closed window. Standing up straight and looking into the classroom, Wang Mingyang found that there were no zombies in this classroom. A pile of tables, chairs and benches blocked the doors and windows facing the square. It is estimated that these 2 boys reacted quickly enough when the zombies broke out and survived. After glancing at the 2 of them, Wang Mingyang frowned and waved for the 3 of them to continue moving forward. When the 2 boys saw that they were planning to leave, they suddenly became anxious and quickly opened the window. Hey, don't leave! Come back quickly! Save us! The slightly urgent voice immediately attracted more than a dozen zombies on the path on one side. The zombies all turned their heads and looked over following the sound. The figures of Wang Mingyang and the 4 others were immediately exposed to the eyes of these zombies. Damn it! What the hell are you guys calling me? Wang Mingyang was immediately angry. These 2 unlucky things, just scream. Why don't you keep your voice down? Is it scary to attract zombies? Not scary. But it's a pity. Wang Mingyang took the 3 of them along the way to hide if they could, and kill if they could. Why is this all happening? Is it because I can't beat him? Absolutely not. With the current fighting power of the 4 of them, even if they encounter hundreds or even thousands of zombies, they can retreat safely. The reason why Wang Mingyang didn't choose to crush all the way was because of the crystal nuclei that might appear in 2 days. By then, these ordinary zombies will all be leaks. This boy's voice, coupled with the movement of more than a dozen zombies, definitely attracted more than just this. More than a dozen zombies let out low roars and rushed towards them, shaking their somewhat stiff limbs. Although the body is still alive, the blood flow in the body has slowed down, and the body is somewhat rigid. However, the running speed is still not slow. It is still no problem to catch up with a living person who lacks the 5 elements of morality, intelligence, body, beauty, and labor. Quickly clear out these dozen. Let's go to the classroom first. Wang Mingyang signaled Liu Chan and Mu Ningxue to quickly clean up the zombies. He raised the knife in his hand and pointed it at the 2 boys. Back off! Following Wang Mingyang's soft drink, the 2 boys were so frightened that they backed away. Wang Mingyang exerted force with his feet, jumped up to the window more than 1 meter high with a light body, grabbed the edge of the window, and jumped in directly. Su Yu, come up first! Wang Mingyang said without looking back. Su Yu immediately jumped up after hearing this, and the next moment he jumped across the window gracefully. Look at them, if they dare to scream again, they will be chopped directly. Okay. Su Yu was stunned. She had killed a lot of zombies, but not a living person. However, she nodded quickly. He took a step forward, placed the horizontal knife on their necks, and looked at the 2 boys with a hint of murderous intent and warning. The 2 college students did not expect that instead of calling for a savior, they actually attracted two murderers. The murderous intent in Wang Mingyang's words and the sharp knife on his neck made the two boys shut their mouths very smartly, not daring to make any more noise. Bao Bao, Mu Ningxue, come up, I'll cover you! Wang Mingyang was lying on the window, casually throwing out a dozen flying swords, and shooting at the zombies running around the corner with a slight whistling sound. Liu Chan and Mu Ningxue have cleared away 7 or 8 zombies, and only a few of the zombies that were attracted at first are still rushing here. But around the corner, you can faintly see zombies rushing towards you, at least 20 of them. Wang Mingyang controlled the flying sword to cut off the zombies' necks, trying not to damage their brains. Liu Chan and Mu Ningxue quickly jumped into the classroom under the cover of Wang Mingyang. Seeing that both of them landed safely, Wang Mingyang turned on his full strength. More than a dozen flying swords flew out of the cuffs again, chopping up the dozens of zombies that followed them like melons and vegetables. Heads rolled to the ground one by one, and zombie corpses lay scattered on the ground. It wasn't until no zombies appeared around the corner that Wang Mingyang quickly retracted his flying sword. Shaking off the stained blood, he quietly opened the mustard space, and flying swords flew into his cuffs like swifts returning to their nests. Wang Mingyang reached out to close the window and drew the curtains. The light in the classroom suddenly dimmed. Around the corner of the teaching building, dozens of zombies poured out again, but they could not find their target. There are zombie heads on the ground, their bloody mouths open and biting the air. Tell me, what's going on with you? Wang Mingyang turned around, grabbed a stool, sat on it with his legs crossed, and looked at the two trembling college students with a gloomy look. The two boys looked at each other. The taller boy with a shaved head cleared his throat and spoke. Ahem, we are. Keep your voice down. Are you afraid that the zombies outside won't know that someone is here? Wang Mingyang looked at the two of them impatiently. His eyes narrowed slightly and his voice was low. The short-haired boy was startled. He seemed to be choking on saliva. He covered his mouth and his face turned red, but he didn't dare to make a sound. You tell me. Wang Mingyang pointed to another boy with broken hair. Oh, my name is Fang Lei, and his name is Zhou Ming. We are junior students majoring in software engineering. After lunch that day, on the way back to the dormitory, the two of us stopped by the classroom to pick up something. Unexpectedly, there was an outbreak of zombies. Fang Lei recounted intermittently the experiences of the two of them in the past few days. These two people were lucky. When the zombies broke out, they were the only ones in the classroom. After taking things and walking to the classroom door, they saw zombies breaking out outside the classroom door. The two reacted quickly and closed the door. I quickly moved a lot of tables, chairs and benches to block the doors and windows, and survived for 5 days relying on the meals I packed at noon. But the two of them couldn't stand it any longer. There was no water in 5 days, and the classroom was still filled with the stench of excrement. I accidentally saw the 4 Wang Mingyang people passing by just now, and I couldn't help but want to ask for help. I never thought that it would attract so many zombies, let alone whether Wang Mingyang and the others would be willing to save them. Brother, please save us! We really can't stand it anymore. Zhou Ming, the short-haired man, finally calmed down. After Fang Lei finished speaking, his knees softened and he knelt down, begging in a low voice. Wang Mingyang looked at Zhou Ming expressionlessly, without moving his eyes. Brother, go ahead and save us. As long as you are willing to save us, after you get out, I will immediately ask my dad to give you 1 million, no, 5 million. Seeing that the leading man was silent, Fang Lei knelt down with a plop, leaned over and said with a cry. Oh. Wang Mingyang smiled. This guy must be a little confused about the situation. I don't have time to save you, we will leave soon. If you are not afraid of death, just go out through the window. We have cleaned up a lot of zombies outside. If you want to survive, you have to do the rest. When Fang Lei heard this, he suddenly raised his tear-stained face and said anxiously, No, 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 brother, we don't have the ability. Zombies are too scary. I can ask my dad to add money. How about 10 million? As long as you are willing to save me. The meaning of Fan Lei's words was immediately understood by several people present. This is to ask Wang Mingyang and the others to save only him, for which he can offer 10 million. Apparently he thought that the reason why Wang Mingyang and the others were unwilling to save them was because they thought it would be unsafe to carry 2 people with them. In order to survive, he chose to abandon Zhou Ming without hesitation. Su Yu and the others looked at the college student named Fan Lei with a flash of disgust in their eyes, and looked at Zhou Ming with a hint of sympathy. Fan Lei, we are good brothers. In order to take care of you these days, I went hungry myself and gave most of the food to you. How could you do this to me? Zhou Ming trembled when he heard this, and immediately said in a low voice. So what? I usually feed you and drink for you, but you can pay me back these days. If you hadn't said that Yan Kiki would come to see us play, I would have gone home a long time ago. How could I have encountered such a thing? Fan Lei roared at the top of his lungs, his hands clenching tightly on the ground with a look of resentment on his face. Yan Kiki was the newly promoted freshman beauty of Yunnan University last year, and Fan Lei has been pursuing her. As a second-generation rich man, Fan Lei was shocked when he saw him at the beginning of school and began to pursue her crazily, but after more than half a year, there was no effect. It wasn't until Zhou Ming found out that Yan Kiki liked to play basketball that he took Fan Lei to practice together, hoping to help him achieve his wish. Unexpectedly, one weekend, zombies broke out, and the 2 of them were trapped in the classroom. Life or death is unknown. Wang Mingyang looked at the 2 of them fighting with a mocking look on his face. Zhou Ming could tell at a glance that he was a younger brother, enjoying life and drinking hot food on the lap of a rich second generation, but he didn't expect that they didn't take him seriously at all. These 2 people obviously don't know yet that the entire Blue Star has fallen. I thought these zombies were caused by a virus and only wreaked havoc near this university town or in Xiqing district. Okay, you 2 stop arguing. Zombies have broken out all over Blue Star. The end of the world has come. Fan Lei, don't show off with your father's little money. I don't know whether your father is alive or not, but his money is just a pile of waste paper now, worthless. As I said before, if you want to survive, you have to fight for it. Ignoring the 2 good brothers who were struck by lightning, Wang Mingyang stood up and walked to the window, opened a corner of the curtain and peeked out. Brother, are these zombies really erupting across Blue Star? Li Yuchan walked to Wang Mingyang's side with a sullen face and asked in a low tone. What do you think? You are on the 5th floor of the library, so you should be able to see quite far. Wang Mingyang said in a calm tone without looking back. Li Yuchan nodded gloomily and said bitterly. Well, you can see from a distance. On the day when the zombies broke out, many planes fell from the sky. There were explosions everywhere, and there were flames in the sky at night. That's right, this disaster is global. But it shouldn't be caused by a virus. The zombie outbreak happened at the same time. A virus can't do this. Wang Mingyang nodded and said with certainty. Hey, I wonder how the old Taoist priest is doing? Li Yuchan muttered to himself, thinking of the master in Changchun Temple. When Wang Mingyang heard this, he hesitated to speak. In the last life, he heard the Yuchan say that Li Yuchan had returned to Changchun Temple. Unfortunately, most of his master and other people in the Taoist temple have turned into zombies. The survivors had already left, and when he returned, all he saw was a dilapidated Taoist temple covered in zombie bloodstains. Even his master was finally killed by Li Yuchan himself. But now, it's impossible for him to say this. It's better to keep Li Yuchan in the dark for the time being. People have their own destiny. Wang Mingyang spit out such a nutritious sentence. What should we do with those 2 guys? Do we want to save them? Li Yuchan gathered his emotions, pouted at the 2 boys, and asked tentatively. TCH. Do you still want to save such rich young men and useless plastic brothers? Wang Mingyang smiled disdainfully, with a look of ridicule on his face. Well, even though they are so different, after all, they still have 2 lives. Li Yuchan scratched the ponytail on the back of his head, which seemed a little unnatural. Bao Bao, I regard you as a friend, and I will teach you something today. Wang Mingyang looked at Li Yuchan with a serious face, put his arms around his neck, and brought his face close to his. In the apocalypse, life is like a piece of grass. Taking care of yourself is the first iron rule. Taoism emphasizes compliance with the destiny of heaven, and Tao follows nature. What does the fate of others have to do with you? When Li Yuchan heard this, he couldn't help but rolled his eyes and retorted. We Taoists still pay attention to my fate is up to me and not up to heaven. That's right. This sentence refers to your own life, not other people's lives. Of course you have to fight for your own destiny. Of course, for example, your best friend Wang Mingyang, apart from your beloved relatives and friends, think about other strangers, who is worth your life. Li Yuchan looked disgusted when he heard this, but his eyes were thoughtful. Do you think it's worth taking the huge risk to save these two plastic brothers? Wang Mingyang is good at tempting, but he doesn't want this close friend from his previous life to be dragged down again, causing him to be jealous of his talents and fall halfway. Well, what you said makes sense, but… Li Yuchan was obviously shaken, but not much. There is no but, brother. The apocalypse is coming, the road ahead will be long, and you will see more people's hearts even darker than this. Wang Mingyang directly interrupted Li Yuchan's words and instilled the idea of survival in the apocalypse seriously. The only people worth saving are your truly loved relatives and friends, or truly pure and kind people. Believe me, I won't harm you. You will find out how correct my words are in the future. Li Yuchan raised his head and looked directly into Wang Mingyang's eyes. At this moment, his mental perception was running involuntarily. However, from Wang Mingyang's eyes, he only felt deep concern, a trace of worry, and a trace of inexplicable distress. Li Yuchan clearly sensed the man in front of him whom he had only met for a few hours. I really do care about him. Although I don't know why, Wang Mingyang would be so confident to him, with concern and distress. Concern. Feeling distressed? Could it be? Li Yuchan seemed to have thought of something and stood stunned on the spot as if he had been struck by lightning. He quickly broke away from Wang Mingyang's arm and backed away. While rubbing his arms back and forth with both hands, he spoke quickly. I understand. I believe you. Just decide. I fully support it. Wang Mingyang looked at Li Yuchan's movements strangely, and looked at his palms in surprise. Don't you have anything strange in your hand? There are no trick items like itching powder. Why are you scratching your itch there? However, Li Yuchan can be initially persuaded. Wang Mingyang is already very satisfied with this. Wang Mingyang didn't care at all about Li Yuchan's somewhat incomprehensible look, and turned his head to observe the situation outside for a while. Back in front of a few people, Fan Lei and Zhou Ming were still pleading with Su Yu and Mu Ningxue. However, the two girls had already been disgusted by their performance to undermine each other, so they simply ignored it with a cold face. Get ready to go out, the zombies outside have dispersed. Wang Mingyang nodded to the two women, explained the situation, and turned to leave. Brother! Big brother! You must save me! Just tell me how much you want. If you don't have enough money, I still have a lot of jewelry, gold and jade at home. You can even ask for a beautiful girl. I'll ask my dad to find some beauties for you directly. They are all young girls. When Fan Lei saw that Wang Mingyang was about to leave, he knew that he was the leader, so he stopped trying to push each other with Zhou Ming. He knelt forward and hurriedly set out his conditions. I'm not interested in what you're talking about. Just ask for your blessings. Wang Mingyang took a step back, let go of Fan Lei's dusty palms, and spoke calmly. Let's go! After saying hello to the two women, Wang Mingyang turned and walked towards the window. Fan Lei and Zhou Ming saw that Wang Mingyang and the four others were indifferent, looked at each other, and couldn't help but stand up with gritted teeth. Okay. You won't save us, right? Then don't blame us. Let's die together. I can't live, and you can't live well either. Let's die together. Fan Lei and Zhou Ming had ferocious faces, gnashing their teeth and clenching their hands, their eyes filled with endless madness. At this time, they seemed to have returned to the time when they were brothers. For the sake of a little hope of survival, they actually turned against the same enemy. Oh, How do you want to die together? Wang Mingyang finally turned around, folded his hands on his chest, raised the corners of his mouth slightly, and asked. Take me with you, I won't drag you down. If you don't bring it, don't blame me. As long as I yell, all the zombies around me will come around, and no one can escape by then. Fang Lei's eyes were fierce and he spoke slowly through gritted teeth. Zhou Ming on the side also nodded repeatedly, and even took a deep breath, indicating that he could shout at any time. He. Wang Mingyang smiled, shook his head speechlessly, and tilted his head towards Li Yuchan beside him. You see, this is the character you once wanted to save. Do you still think so now? Li Yuchan's face was gloomy, and he shook his head silently. I'm not interested anymore. What do you want to do? If they yell, it will indeed cause us a lot of trouble. How to do it? It's very simple. There is a saying that if you can't solve the trouble, then solve the people who caused the trouble. Wang Mingyang put down his hands, stepped forward slowly, and murmured in a low voice. Deal with the troublemaker, Wang Mingyang. Do you want to? Li Yuchan chewed on Wang Mingyang's words and was suddenly startled. He had a bad feeling and quickly reached out to hold him. However, 2 silver sword lights flashed past like lightning. In the classroom, 2 college students with ferocious faces and crazy and fierce eyes suddenly had a bloodstain between their eyebrows, and red blood slowly overflowed. The 2 flying swords circled around the classroom and flew back to Wang Mingyang. A few rays of sunlight shine through the window through the gaps in the curtains. The light falls on the floating bright silver flying sword, which looks a bit dazzling, but there is no blood on it. The expressions of Fang Lei and Zhou Ming were frozen, and blood flowed from their eyebrows to their chins, condensing into a point and dripping slowly. The 2 bodies slowly collapsed. Let's go, it's getting late, I'm a little hungry. Wang Mingyang calmly put away his flying sword, turned around and walked towards the window. He didn't feel any strange after just killing 2 people. His face remained calm, and he even felt a little hungry. The 3 people on the side were dumbfounded, staring blankly at the 2 college students who fell on the ground. 1 second they were still 2 living beings, although the 3 of them also despised them. But the next second, the pair of plastic brothers were killed by Wang Mingyang with 1 blow and turned into 2 corpses right in front of them. This is somewhat difficult for them to accept. However, it seems that I feel a little bit of pleasure again. With the strengthened bodies of Su Yu and Mu Ningxue, Wang Mingyang's previous whispers with Li Yuchan could also be heard clearly. Fang Lei and Zhou Ming's final threats also made them feel angry. With these remarks as a foreshadowing, Wang Mingyang's 2 resolute swords seemed not so difficult to accept. The first person to react was Mu Ningxue, who had already seen Wang Mingyang murder someone. After quickly gathering her emotions, Mu Ningxue turned and walked towards the window, and even pulled Su Yu along. Su Yu's body trembled, and he immediately reacted. He turned his head and glanced at the 2 corpses on the ground. His eyes narrowed, as if he had made up his mind. Li Yuchan took a deep breath, his eyes gradually calmed down, and he stopped looking at the plastic brother lying on the ground and turned around. The 3 of them all remained silent in tacit agreement, but each was thinking about Wang Mingyang's behavior in his heart. As for whether they approve it or not, only they themselves know. Wang Mingyang would not pay attention to this. What he said to Li Yuchan just now was not meant for Su Yu and Mu Ningxue to hear. Whether you can accept it or not doesn't happen overnight. Some experiences are useless just listening to others. You have to experience it yourself. Just like elders often say, you should study hard and what will happen in the future. But my young self never cared about it. It was time to play and eat, and in the end I graduated from a crappy university. After entering the society, I realized that I had to work hard to finish my study life. After graduation, I could only work as a waiter or salesperson at the lowest level, with a measly monthly salary of 2,000 to 3,000. Then after a few years of hard work, I spent my free time reminiscing about the past. I can only sigh helplessly, if only I had listened to the elders. Study hard, get into a good university, and choose a good major. After studying hard in college for 4 years, I passed all the certificates that should be passed and learned all the knowledge that should be learned. After graduation, it will definitely not be what it is now. But is there any way back in life? What the elders said may not be entirely correct. But at least study hard and you won't go wrong. With so many thoughts in his mind, Wang Mingyang turned over and stepped across the window. The black shadow of his sword drew several arcs and quickly chopped down several approaching zombies. There were 3 sounds of the ground falling in succession behind him, and he knew without looking back that Liu Chan and the others were following them. Wang Mingyang casually waved MOing and cut off a zombie's neck diagonally, with a smile on his lips. Being able to catch up in such a short period of time shows that his words did have an effect. Many of their psychological barriers were quickly eliminated. Otherwise it would be impossible to follow closely. His earnest words were not in vain after all. The 4 of them quickly cleared away the zombies, and Wang Mingyang also used this opportunity to become familiar with his melee sword skills again. Now his physical fitness is still far behind compared to before his rebirth, and his strength and speed are obviously inferior. Further adaptation is needed to avoid deviations in judgment. By the way, I would also like to teach Suyu that her superpowers perform well in close combat. The 4 of them kept moving forward, and they wiped out nearly 100 zombies along the way. Wang Mingyang felt a little distressed. Most of these zombies had their heads pierced by Liu Chan and Mu Ningxue, and they could no longer be cultivated. On the side of the teaching building of the School of Information are several teaching buildings of the School of Urban Construction. The actions of Wang Mingyang and the 4 others were seen by some survivors in the teaching building. Some of them were more anxious and couldn't help but pull open the windows and shout for help. What bothers Wang Mingyang the most is this kind of inconsiderate guy. The zombie outbreak has been going on for a few days. Don't you know that the sound will attract zombies? Sure enough, as these people shouted, the surrounding zombies began to riot. The zombies in some corridors even followed the sound to find the classroom where the survivors were hiding, and began to smash the door crazily. Wang Mingyang ignored the cries of the survivors, glanced around, and saw a sign at a road intersection. He immediately waved his hand and rushed towards the sign. Suyu and the other 3 followed closely, while hurriedly clearing away more and more zombies. There is a complex building in the northeast, and there is a large supermarket on the right side of the complex. Where should we go first? Wang Mingyang quickly scanned the sign. The continuous increase in mental power made his memory much stronger, and he memorized the image of the sign in an instant. Zombies gathered around him. Wang Mingyang didn't care about getting familiar with the melee combat ability. Dozens of flying swords flew out of his pockets and quickly fired forward. Taking the lead and sprinting towards the northeast, zombies fell to the ground one after another along the way. The long-range advantages of the 3 ADCs were maximized, and Suyu was the most leisurely one. When the survivors saw that the 4 people were ignoring them, they couldn't help but curse loudly. But shouting like this will only make the zombies outside the door even crazier. After a while, in the teaching building of the Urban Construction College, along with the excited roars of many zombies, the desperate screams of survivors were heard one after another. Killing and walking, the 4 of them finally arrived at the complex building after about 10 minutes. The buildings and facilities at Yunnan University are not very high, with the highest being only the 7th floor. However, this complex is built on the top of a small hill, and there is a large supermarket located on the slope further down. Look, that's the School of Life Sciences over there. Liu Chan took the time to point to a building about 1 kilometer to the north and said, "Well, it's good to have a goal. Let's go to the supermarket first." Wang Mingyang nodded. He was not far away and could go at any time. However, it is almost 6 o'clock now, so it is not suitable to continue exploring. This complex building is basically used for faculty and staff offices, and there are usually very few students. It happened to be the weekend and there weren't many faculty members there, but there weren't many zombies. However, Wang Mingyang and the 4 of them fought their way out, attracting 200 to 300 zombies following them. Wang Mingyang directed Mu Ningxue and Suyu to clean up the scattered zombies nearby. He activated his metal control ability and controlled several cars parked under the complex, directly blocking the slope they climbed up. Liu Chan also followed suit and moved and stacked the cars together. Mu Ningxue, freeze the road and let these zombies roll down. After Mu Ningxue finished clearing the zombies on the first floor, she jumped onto the stacked cars and activated her ice powers with all her strength. The relatively wide slope of the road quickly became covered with a layer of frost, and the road suddenly became slippery. The zombies running rapidly stepped on the ice one after another, their feet kept slipping, and they all rolled down. Upstairs in the complex, in a large office, several teachers-looking men and women were lying by the window, looking at the situation below and whispering. "Holy shit! What is this? Is it a superpower?" A young male teacher in casual clothes asked in surprise. "It seems that with a wave of that man's hand, my car actually flew up." A young female teacher standing 1.55 meters tall on the side covered her mouth and nodded. "Damn it, I just bought a new car. This bastard actually took my car to the bottom," growled the middle-aged male teacher wearing glasses. "How long has it been? You still care about the car, it's just a broken Jetta." Another female teacher with a good figure said scornfully. "What the hell?" The middle-aged male teacher choked. "Director Hong, are these our students? Why are they so powerful?" The young male teacher turned to look at the silent director of academic affairs. "I don't know. I have a vague impression of the boy with the ponytail, but the other three, probably not." Director Hong, who was wearing a black suit and was about 50 years old, touched the Mediterranean Sea and shook his head. He vaguely remembered a boy with a ponytail and cloth shoes. He seemed to be from the philosophy department. It is said that he is still a Taoist disciple, and he was directly arranged to enter the school by the dean. As for the other 2 men and 2 women, he really didn't know them. These 2 beautiful girls are enough to be named school beauties. If he is from Yunnan University, he must know him. 1.55. Since he is a student of our school, he should be allowed to save us. Middle-aged male teacher. Yes, in times of crisis, this boy actually has this ability. He should bear greater responsibilities. There are zombies outside. If we just shout loudly, we will be eaten by the zombies outside before they come up. The young male teacher is still reasonable and is not in a hurry. Xiao Lu is right. Find a cup and throw it out to attract their attention first. Director Hong pondered for a moment and nodded. Director Hong, I remember you have a brush and ink. I'll get them and write a distress signal. Xiao Lu turned around and walked towards the bookshelf behind his desk. Yes, it's in the drawer under the shelf. Teacher Jiang, go get a cup. Director Hong ordered. Okay. When the middle-aged teacher Jiang on the side heard this, he immediately ran to the coffee table in the middle of the office, grabbed a purple pottery teacup, and prepared to throw it out the window. Hey! That's my cup, you can get another cup. Director Hong looked at it, and immediately felt distressed. Oh, okay. Teacher Jiang looked at the purple pottery teacup in his hand, put it down hurriedly, and grabbed the glass next to it. That's my justice cup. Isn't there a glass over there? Director Hong's eyes twitched, pointing to the water dispenser in the corner, and growling. The 1.55-meter tall man with a good figure on the side heard this, and the corner of his mouth twitched slightly. Damn it, what time has it been, and I'm still thinking about drinking tea. Keep the little raw cups. Hurry up, they're leaving. Good figure saw the 4 people downstairs, who had arranged everything and were about to turn around and leave, and couldn't help but urge. When Teacher Jiang got the glass, he turned around and ran back to the window. The good-looking man grabbed the glass and threw it out the window. Let's go, these obstacles should hold us back for a while. Downstairs in the complex, Wang Mingyang chuckled and led the 3 of them to run towards the other side of the slope. Behind him, a group of zombies were howling and learning to skate. Bang! A glass hit the downstairs of the complex with a crisp sound. When the zombies in the corridors of the complex heard the sound, they immediately howled and rushed towards them following the sound. Just now, when Wang Mingyang and Liu Chan were carrying stacked cars, they tried their best to avoid making noise to attract zombies to the complex. I didn't expect that something like this would happen before I left. The four of them looked up upstairs in silence, and saw 5 excited faces behind 2 large glass windows on the 5th floor of the complex. One of the young male teachers was still drawing large black characters on the window with a brush. "Hey, you must be sick!" Even the good-tempered Zhutian couldn't help scolding him. After half a day of fighting, most of his mental energy had been lost. Now we have to face dozens of zombies again. Although Wang Mingyang is here, this number is nothing. But I still feel very uncomfortable. SOS. Suyu read along the handwriting. "This is asking for help." Mu Ningxue frowned and looked at Wang Mingyang. "Save hammer. I don't have time to pay attention to them. Hurry up and leave." Wang Mingyang's face sank, and he turned around and left. Liu Chan shrugged. He had the experience of the teaching building of the urban construction college just now, plus the dirty influence of the pair of plastic brothers. At this moment, he has no interest in rescuing survivors. Su Yu and Mu Ningxue had experienced this situation several times and followed Wang Mingyang without hesitation. Seeing the 4 people leaving without looking back, several teachers upstairs suddenly cursed in low voices. "Asshole, this guy doesn't want to get his diploma. How dare he not save us?" The 1.55-meter-tall man yelled angrily. "How could such an irresponsible person become a student of our Yunnan University? I must complain to the principal and expel him directly." Teacher Jiang jumped angrily and pointed at the window with trembling fingers. "Such selfish people must be social animals. What future can they have? After the government rescues them, I will definitely report them to the city." The good figure raised his orchid finger and stamped his feet, his eyes full of contempt. "Shut up! Don't you think you can die quickly enough? The zombies will be attracted by you." Xiao Lu scolded in a low voice, pointing his finger to the door. There were still some zombies wandering in the corridor on the 5th floor, and low roars could be heard faintly. "Forget it, the boy with the ponytail was admitted directly by the dean of the School of Philosophy. Complaining is useless." Director Hong had a gloomy face and shouted in a low voice. "The other 3 are probably not students of our Yunnan University. Save your energy. We have run out of food. If you have the energy to curse, you might as well go out and find some food." As soon as they heard that they were going out to find food, the 3 people who had been cursing just now shut up immediately. In fact, 8 people survived before, because they were so hungry that they had no choice but to take advantage of the zombies in the corridor to walk away and go out to look for food. In the end, after only finding 2 or 3 rooms, 2 zombies came back and 3 teachers died. The remaining 5 people relied on Xiao Lu to risk his life and returned to his office, bringing back half a box of instant noodles. Now let them go out again. It is estimated that except for Xiao Lu, several others will not dare to go out even if they are beaten to death. Director Hong is right. At times like this, no one else can be relied upon. We can only rely on ourselves. The glass just now gave me some inspiration. Maybe we can find some food safely." Xiao Lu nodded and said, "Tell me, Xiao Lu, what do you think?" Director Hong turned around and stopped looking out the window. "These zombies are very sensitive to sound. Except for those who come to work overtime on weekends, there are not many people in the complex. Calculated this way, there are actually not many zombies. And just now I was attracted to some people downstairs, and many of them were killed by those 4 people. There definitely won't be many zombies left in this complex. We just need to find some more cups, make some noise, and lure the zombies down in the building. We can take this opportunity to search for supplies. Otherwise, I'm afraid we will starve to death before the government can rescue us." Xiao Lu finished speaking slowly, licked his dry lips, and glanced at the other 4 people with a serious look. "But we don't know where there is food at all," 1.55 muttered. "There is a big supermarket down the slope, but we can't get through it at all." Good figure sighed, feeling a little helpless. "Teacher Zhou Yan, you are right. There are so many zombies and we don't have the ability of those few people. We don't have to think about the supermarket. Director Hong shook his head. This way will definitely not work. But I happen to know a little bit about what Teacher Zhang Ting said. Xiao Lu suddenly smiled and said, Next door to our office are several teachers from the computer science department. They often stay up late to write programs. There are people in the office. A big cabinet with a lot of instant noodles and sausages that they usually stock up on. Oh? Then why didn't you bring more back before? Teacher Jiang couldn't help but feel annoyed when he heard this. If you hadn't attracted the zombies, I would have gone next door to take a look. Besides, how much can I take by myself? Xiao Lu rolled his eyes and looked at the middle-aged male teacher with disdain. Previously he, Teacher Jiang and 3 other male teachers went out to look for supplies. It was this guy who encountered a zombie and screamed in panic, attracting other zombies. In the end, the other 3 male teachers had no choice but to change careers, and they should still be patrolling the corridors now. What should we do? Your office is on the 4th floor. Even if we get there, we can't open the door without the key. Zhou Yan, who has a good figure, twisted her body and asked. Those teachers in the computer department put a key in my drawer. But how are we going to deal with the zombies in the corridors and corridors? Director Hong touched the sea, feeling a little worried. I guess I have to sacrifice Director Hong's teacup. Xiao Lu's mouth twitched slightly, his eyes drifting to the coffee table. There are many teacups and teapots on the coffee table. They will definitely crunch if dropped. Okay. Let's do it. Although Director Hong is usually very naughty and likes to communicate with pretty students, he still understands the general situation at the moment. In order to survive, he would not hesitate to contribute his treasure. While several people were discussing the action plan, Wang Mingyang and 4 other people had quickly rushed to the supermarket. This supermarket has 2 floors. At a glance, the supermarket door on the 1st floor is wide open, and there are many zombies inside. There are actually many zombies gathered outside, at least hundreds of them. The business of this supermarket is good. It's much bigger than yours. There are so many zombies coming to shop. Wang Mingyang smiled lightly and joked. How can this compare? Don't even think about it. How many students are there in Yunnan University? So you seem to be thinking of Aunt Lu, and his eyes dimmed. After cleaning up these zombies, let's go inside to find some food. Wang Mingyang noticed something was wrong with Suyu, cursed himself secretly, and quickly changed the topic. After waving the horizontal sword and mowing, Wang Mingyang took the lead and rushed over. Mu Ningxue patted Suyu, a circle of ice and snow spread around her, and the group slowed down. Suyu took a deep breath, and dark flames wrapped around the horizontal knife. As if he wanted to vent his annoyance, Suyu slashed directly at the group of corpses with his knife. The dark red sword flashed, and the rushing corpses were suddenly cut open, and dark red flames exploded among the corpses with a loud bang. With just one strike, Suyu killed a dozen zombies. In the previous battle, Suyu only wrapped the dark flame around his sword to increase its lethality. Liu Chan was shocked when he saw Suyu's move for the first time. He secretly thought that the 2 girls brought by Wang Mingyang were so extraordinary. The standard of this small team is really high. The crowd of zombies surged, and all the zombies in the supermarket were attracted, screaming and rushing towards the 4 people. Wang Mingyang waved his hand and melted all the metal objects on the roadside and took them in. A fence more than 1 meter high quickly surrounded the 4 people. The zombies pulled at the fence, stretched out their hands and screamed at them, but for a while they were unable to pass the guardrail. Liu Chan chuckled. Wang Mingyang's move was indeed miraculous. He could control the flying sword with all his strength without any scruples. Wang Mingyang led Suyu forward and cut off countless arms with a horizontal knife, and chopped down zombies one after another with the sharp horizontal knife. With the protection of this iron fence, there is no need for so much output for the time being. Mu Ningxue concentrated her mind and tried out an ability she had imagined in her mind. Following the guidance of her mental power, a pure energy of ice and snow bloomed among the corpses 10 meters away. An ice flower bloomed quickly, freezing all the zombies 5 meters around. Upon seeing this, Liu Chan whizzed past with several flying swords, killing all the frozen zombies. The blood in the zombie's body had solidified, and it did not contaminate the ground at all. As the ice flowers bloomed with this move, Mu Ningxue clearly felt that most of her mental power and energy were consumed. If it happens again, she will probably have to take a break. Several people cooperated with each other and quickly cleared away the zombies, leaving the supermarket completely silent. All the zombies inside were attracted, saving them the trouble of searching. Stepping over the corpses on the ground, the four of them walked straight to the supermarket. Little did they know that because of their killings, there was an uproar in the two dormitory buildings 200 meters away to the east. There are still many students surviving in these two dormitories. One dormitory building for boys and one dormitory building for girls. At this time, these survivors no longer took care to avoid carefully, and they all lay on the balcony and looked around. The screams kept ringing out, causing the zombies downstairs to raise their heads and roar frequently. There was a commotion throughout the dormitory building, and occasionally there were screams caused by zombies smashing in the door. Who are these people? Are they superpowers? Damn it, sword-wielding skills? That guy is such a dick. Female version of Yujige? I seem to have seen the little yellow-haired crescent moon Sky Chong. That short-haired guy is even more awesome. He just created a protective barrier out of thin air so that the zombies can't even touch them. Are these people from our school? Those two girls are so pretty and sassy, I'm so envious. I've seen that boy with a ponytail. He seems to be from the philosophy department. What the hell, why do I have to kill everyone even though I don't have superpowers? I have awakened my superpower, but I can only shoot a few water arrows and can't kill the zombies at all. My little fireball is pretty good, but it can only fire 5 shots. It takes 3 to kill one. There are too many zombies. Among the survivors in the dormitory, there are also people with awakened powers. It's a pity that they are not powerful abilities, they are too weak in the early stage. These people are all trapped in their own dormitories, and it is difficult to gather together. They have no fighting power against so many zombies. In the large supermarket, after Wang Mingyang and the others entered, they directly pulled down the rolling shutter door. There were still many corpses inside, and Liu Chan became the porter again. Under the control of Tai's spiritual mind, the broken bodies were thrown outside the supermarket. As the rolling shutter door fell, the light inside suddenly became much darker. The first floor is for snacks and daily necessities. I remember there seems to be a leisure area on the second floor, Liu Chan said, sweeping the tip of his nose and looking at the stairs. There were a lot of corpses that had started to smell, and the whole supermarket didn't smell very good. Wang Mingyang was already used to this smell and didn't think there was anything wrong. Su Yu and Mu Ningxue had a lot of experience cleaning up private houses before, so they were somewhat used to it. On the contrary, Liu Chan couldn't bear it now. He had cleaned the 5th floor of the library where he was before, and it didn't have such a strong smell. Go up and have a look. Wang Mingyang picked up the knife and walked up the stairs. The view from the leisure area above would be better. Several people walked up to the 2nd floor, and there were 2 zombies stuck behind a bar, screaming at them. Liu Chan flew his sword through his head, then used his mind power to control the 2 corpses, and threw them directly out of the window. Wang Mingyang glanced around and saw that the hall was spacious and there were many leisure tables and chairs placed by the windows. On the other side are several counters for making milk tea and snacks. The inside is messy and there are still a lot of blood stains. However, there are no zombies left. Except for the 2 stuck ones, all the other zombies have been attracted away just now. After finding a seat with a good view and sitting down, Wang Mingyang cast his gaze towards the dormitory building area. Brother Mingyang, let me get you some food. Su Yu stepped forward and said. Well, if I'm sorry to bother you, just get some instant noodles or something. Wang Mingyang smiled slightly and nodded to Su Yu. Okay. Su Yu smiled back, turned around and walked downstairs. Xiao Yu, I'll go with you. Mu Ningxue held the knife and ran forward to hold Su Yu's hand. Okay, Sister Shui, let me see if there is a pot. I can use the dark flame to cook instant noodles. Su stretched out his arm to hold Mu Ningxue and smiled. Then I have to add 2 eggs and a piece of ham. Mu Ningxue raised the corner of her mouth. Perfect! The 2 women whispered and walked downstairs, while Li Yuchan fanned his nose and sat next to Wang Mingyang. Wang Mingyang took out a pack of cigarettes from his pocket, gave him one, and lit the lighter. Have one, and you will gradually get used to the taste. I don't know how to smoke, but the smell is indeed a little bit addictive. Li Yuchan frowned and took the cigarette, looking at it for a while. It's simple, you can learn it once you learn it, and you won't learn it again. Wang Mingyang took a deep breath, slowly blew out the smoke ring, and handed over the lighter in his hand. Cough, cough! It's really choking. Li Yuchan imitated Wang Mingyang and took a deep breath, and was immediately choked and coughed repeatedly. Ha ha, Lei Bao, who told you to take a big gulp as soon as you come in? Take small gulps slowly, don't let it enter your lungs first, and wait until you get used to it. Wang Mingyang laughed when he saw this. Li Yuchan in the previous life also learned to smoke from him. The first time I smoked it, I was choked and coughed like this. This familiar scene couldn't help but make him feel filled with emotion. Li Yuchan seemed to want to use the smell of smoke to dispel the faint rotten smell coming from the tip of his nose. After coughing, he tried again. I said, Wang Mingyang, why do you want to go to the School of Life Sciences? I don't know either. I just have a vague feeling that there is something that can answer my doubts. I need to verify it. Wang Mingyang's eyes were a little deep. Feeling? Just for this, you are ready to break into this campus full of zombies? Li Yuchan obviously didn't believe it. Indeed, we encountered some things 2 days ago, and I have a feeling that my doubts may be answered here. Wang Mingyang nodded. What's going on? I won't be able to tell for a while, but you'll know when the time comes. Cut! Li Yuchan made an international gesture. Although he is a preparatory Taoist priest, he is still quite down to earth. Wang Mingyang smiled and gave him the middle finger in return. What colleges are the students in the dormitory area over there? Wang Mingyang glanced at the dormitory area, feeling a little confused. Those are all from the School of Chemical Engineering, Economics, and Life Sciences. There are a total of 8 6-story dormitories. Li Yuchan followed Wang Mingyang's line of sight, thought for a while and said, Well, after dinner, let's take a trip and ask some students from the School of Life Sciences. There should be many survivors. There must be a lot of zombies, but it doesn't matter, just clean them up. Wang Mingyang said that the collective fighting power of the 4 people would not pose much of a threat unless they encountered multiple second-level zombies. Among these people, there should be awakened ones. There will definitely be some, but they shouldn't be strong. Wang Mingyang pondered for a while, searching for the memories in his mind. In his last life, he only awakened his superpower 7 days after the end of the world, so he didn't know the specific situation of Dian University at all. I haven't heard of any powerful figures appearing here since then, except for Li Yuchan. However, I met Li Yuchan 1 year after the end of the world in my previous life. At that time, they didn't talk much about the past. What Wang Mingyang knew was that Li Yuchan was born in Changchun Temple in Nanzhao City. So he didn't expect that Li Yuchan would appear at Dian University, and they would get together by accident after he was reborn. What to do if you encounter an awakened person? Do you plan to recruit a few more disciples? Li Yuchan puffed out smoke and tilted his head to ask. It depends on the situation. I value quality over quantity. Wang Mingyang did not refuse directly, but he really had no interest in those low-level awakened people. Although awakening low-level abilities is not completely useless. But if you want to stand at the top, the energy and resources required are unimaginable. You can tell by looking at yourself who was 3-star and 5 death in your previous life. No matter how hard you try, without the blessing of great opportunities, you will still stop at the 5th level. After being reborn, Wang Mingyang did not dare to trust others easily. It was because of Aunt Lu that Su Yu wanted to take care of her at first. In addition, she has awakened A-level dual attribute abilities, which means she will have powerful combat power in the future. Mu Ningxue, on the other hand, had no bad deeds in her previous life because of her S-level ice and snow powers, but she had a good reputation. These two women have unlimited potential in the future, and can become his right-hand man. Not to mention Li Yuchan, his absolute best friend in his previous life, his life-saving grace many times, and his trustworthy brother. A-level psychic abilities have endless possibilities. After gathering these three people, the small team began to take shape. Wang Mingyang is also thinking about whether to recruit a qualified awakener into the team if he meets one. He has not forgotten that the enemies in his previous life are not small characters. The mastermind behind Li Yuchan's death must not be simple, otherwise it would be impossible to plot against a powerful 7th-level psychic. It's a pity that Han Taizhan and Han Jun's uncle and nephew are currently in Sichuan province. Moreover, Han Taizhan was an underground king before the end of the world, with many subordinates and many hot weapons. After the end of the world, in Wang Mingyang's memory, Han Taizhan awakened his powers very early and led the gang to search for a lot of heavy firepower. This is also the reason why Wang Mingyang chose Fundamentals of Metal Science to study after acquiring the Zhutian reading system. In the early days of the apocalypse, thermal weapons are still a great weapon. Quality rather than quantity. Are you sure you don't value color? Li Yuchan had a look of disdain on his face. You are surrounded by two stunning beauties, but there is no male. Is this what you mean by focusing on quality over quantity? What the hell? Which of your eyes saw my lustful look? Wang Mingyang became angry and threw the cigarette butt directly at Li Yuchan. An invisible force stuck the cigarette butt in the air. Li Yuchan hugged his hands and laughed, his eyes mocking. So you awakened the A-level dual attribute power, and Mu Ningxue awakened the S-level ice and snow power. Do you think, why are their strengths inferior to yours? Wang Mingyang's eyes were contemptuous. You have an A-level telekinesis, but you still have the nerve to criticize others. Wait. What A-level and S-level are you talking about? How and who decided it? Li Yuchan looked surprised when he heard this. Have you never read fantasy novels or urban supernatural novels? Without TCH. You bastard. Wang Mingyang raised his middle finger. If you have nothing to do, read a few more novels and you will know how to decide. Then what is my level? Li Yuchan asked curiously with a look of shame on his face. Your mental power, judging from the strength, should be level A. Only A level? I think I'm quite strong. Come on, a level is already very high. Wang Mingyang was speechless, so he had to give him a little knowledge about power levels. So, Boss Wang, what level are you at? Li Yuchan laughed sarcastically, leaned closer and asked. Hey, now you know to call me boss. As for me, what kind of superpower are you talking about? Wang Mingyang glanced at him sideways and asked in a calm tone. Which kind? Damn it, don't tell me you have more than one kind. Li Yuchan was shocked. Wang Mingyang chuckled, and lightly drew his fingers from top to bottom in front of him, and a black line suddenly appeared from his fingertips. With a thought, this black line instantly cut through the space and passed directly through the middle of a table a few meters away. The iron table slowly cracked and fell to both sides, with the gap in the middle as smooth as a mirror. This? Li Yuchan opened his mouth wide in disbelief. The speed and power of this black line simply exceeded his imagination. S-level space cutting, another of my powers. Wang Mingyang's tone was calm, as if he was describing an extremely ordinary thing. But the slightly raised corners of his mouth revealed his inner pride. Although Wang Mingyang in his previous life possessed a variety of superpowers, his power was really unsightly. For this reason, Li Yuchan was often criticized in Versailles, although he knew very well that Li Yuchan did not mean to look down on him at all. However, being teased by brothers is always a shameful thing. Coming to Versailles for him in this life, this feeling is really... It's so cool. Holy shit, what about your ability to control metal like it's like squeezing mud? What level is it? Li Yuchan asked cautiously with a growl in his throat. Oh, you're talking about that A-grade metal control ability. Wang Mingyang looked calm, as if this was nothing. A-level metal control, S-level space cutting! Li Yuchan muttered to himself, with a look of sadness and indignation on his face. During the short battle, Li Yuchan also discovered that among the three Wang Mingyangs, Wang Mingyang was the strongest, followed by Mu Ningxue. Most of the time, Suyu only wrapped his sword with dark flames, fighting in close quarters, and his combat effectiveness was the worst. But Suyu's knife at the entrance of the supermarket shocked him. Mu Ningxue's blooming ice flower also made him feel powerful. But even so, Li Yuchan always thought that his strength should be superior to the two women. Of course, he is definitely worse than Wang Mingyang. After all, they have played against each other, and he is only one step behind. But after Wang Mingyang's explanation, Li Yuchan thought about it carefully. The clown turned out to be myself. Suyu found a pot out of nowhere and cooked a large pot of food. The A-level dark flame ability really helps a lot. After a while, Li Yuchan raised his head and drank the coke in his hand. He collapsed on the chair and rubbed his round belly with his right hand, with a look of satisfaction on his face. I stayed alone in the library, although I found some food and drink. But how can that kind of thing compare to a hot meal? After a short rest, let's go to the dormitory area. Maybe we'll stay there tonight. Wang Mingyang wiped his mouth with a tissue and turned to look at the dormitory building in the distance. Brother Mingyang, should we bring some food? Suyu had already put down his bowls and chopsticks, holding a cup of instant coffee and drinking it. Just bring a little, don't take too much, it will affect your actions. Wang Mingyang nodded, but what he was thinking about was how to find a reason to move the supermarket alone. The mustard space is large enough, and there are currently some clothes and a large pile of metal in it. It is indeed a waste to keep it empty like this. After discussing the next goal, the four of them found a few backpacks and went their separate ways. After everything was sorted, the four of them gathered at the door and walked out together. Wang Mingyang also pulled down the supermarket rolling shutter door. The sky outside had darkened, and Wang Mingyang slowed down. When the three of them walked a few meters away, Wang Mingyang suddenly let out a cry. What's wrong? Li Yuchan turned around when he heard the sound and looked around suspiciously. I forgot to pick up a few cigarettes, please wait for me a moment. Wang Mingyang chuckled, turned around and walked towards the supermarket. Oh, you are really a smoker, how can you forget about cigarettes? Li Yuchan was speechless for a while. Suyu and Mu Ningxue looked at each other with smiles in their eyes. The three of them didn't think much, and just stood at the intersection waiting. Wang Mingyang quickly returned to the entrance of the supermarket, opened the rolling shutter door halfway, and rushed in. Facing the dazzling supermarket, Wang Mingyang smiled slightly and waved his hand. One by one, the shelves disappeared into thin air. Everything you can eat and drink will be packed away. If you feel you can use it in the future, take it with you. Soon, the 200 square meter supermarket was completely new, as if it had been moved. Wang Mingyang held a flower in his hand and ducked through the rolling shutter door. Pulling the rolling shutter door down casually, Wang Mingyang patted the dust on his hands as if nothing had happened. Let's go, I've made a fool of myself, I never had the chance to do it before. After waving the huazi in his hand, Wang Mingyang returned to the three of them and stuffed the huazi into his backpack. It's 0 yuan now, so you can smoke hundreds or even thousands of cigars without any problem. Mu Ningxue said calmly that the experiences of the past few days made her finally understand why Wang Mingyang said before that money was worthless. Well, you can try it if you have the chance. Wang Mingyang smiled lightly and took the lead towards the dormitory area. The supermarket is about 200 to 300 meters away from the dormitory area, and there are many zombies along the way. The sky was dark and everyone's vision was not very good, so Wang Mingyang decided to fight quickly. Dozens of flying swords cleared the way. Wang Mingyang asked Li Yuchan to focus on the surroundings. His Tai Divine Sense was also very good for protection. Mu Ningxue's deceleration field is also deployed at any time, ensuring that zombies will be slowed down even if they are close. Suyu was thorough and leisurely walked beside Mu Ningxue with a knife in hand. Wang Mingyang tried his best to clear the way, and he also used his space-cutting ability. As long as the zombies gather in front of you, a black line will cut through them, and their heads will roll to the ground with a grunt. The roar of zombies attracted the survivors on several dormitory floors to poke their heads out to check. Everyone whispered again, but with the experience during the day, the remaining survivors did not dare to speak loudly. They all looked at the 4 people in the distance with shining eyes and some excitement. Because they vaguely discovered that the target of the 4 people seemed to be this dormitory area. This situation made many people think that Wang Mingyang and the others were here to save them. Finally, almost saved, the 4 people quickly rushed to a dormitory building. Wang Mingyang glanced around and didn't know which building contained students from the School of Life Sciences. No matter what, go to the building on the left first. Li Yuchan looked around, pointed at the dormitory on the left, and shouted. When everyone heard this, they didn't care to take a closer look. Wang Mingyang turned his flying sword and rushed to the left with a few people. Leaving bodies and decapitated bodies on the ground, the 4 people quickly rushed into the dormitory building. Wang Mingyang closed the door of the dormitory building, controlled the surrounding metal to gather together, and blocked the door tightly. The corpses scratched and roared outside, making a harsh grinding sound. Everyone took a breath, and Suyu swung his knife to chop down several zombies that rushed towards them on the first floor. The movement here caused the zombies in the entire dormitory building to rush down. You're all here, let's clean up this building. Seeing this situation, Wang Mingyang simply started to do it, and regarded it as military training. All the way forward, the other 3 people didn't put much effort, and it was Wang Mingyang who took the lead in the charge. This dormitory building has 6 floors, each floor has about 30 dormitories, and the entire dormitory building has about 700 to 800 people. It was noon on the weekend when the zombies broke out. At this time, many students had already gone out. At this time, there were at least nearly 200 zombies rushing from various floors. Killing like this is not an option. After a while, the corpses will block the stairs. Mu Ningxue looked at the corpses piled up at the stairs and frowned. The space in the dormitory building is narrow, and many zombies even fell directly from the upper stairs. While waving and mowing, Wang Mingyang controlled the flying sword to quickly kill zombies. He also thought of Mu Ningxue's worries. After thinking about it, he quickly shouted to Suyu. Suyu, use your dark flames to burn these zombies directly! Suyu, who was wielding a horizontal sword, couldn't help but screamed when he heard this. She can already control the temperature of the dark flame, but to burn out these zombies, she probably has to adjust it to the maximum temperature. As a result, it is estimated that the floor slab will not be able to withstand such high temperatures. Don't worry, I'm here, you can take action. Seeing that Suyu didn't move, Wang Mingyang spoke again. Suyu heard the words and no longer hesitated. He held the horizontal knife upside down and pointed his palm forward at the zombies crazily crowded in the stairs. The next second, a blazing dark red flame illuminated the dim dormitory building. Wang Mingyang controlled the nearby metal to form a wall blocking the staircase, leaving only a hole for Suyu's dark flame to enter. The roar of the zombies mixed with the crackle of exploding grease resounded throughout the corridor, and the dark flames spread rapidly like maggots in the tarsal bones. You can directly see from the outside that there are countless zombies gathered on the 1st to 4th floors and the stairway in the center of the entire dormitory building. At this moment, they all became torches, dark red flames emitting strange light, illuminating the increasingly dark sky. The surrounding zombies were attracted by the sudden light here, and they all roared and moved to gather together. Okay, Suyu, stop it! After a while, Wang Mingyang patted Suyu's shoulder gently and asked her to stop. Suyu's flame can continue to burn for a period of time as long as it is contaminated. Now that the zombies in the entire corridor were ignited, there was no need for her to output any more energy. Suyu breathed a sigh of relief and slowly lowered her palms. This time she used all her strength. Most of her mental strength and energy were consumed, and she was indeed a little tired. In a place where no one could see, the entire corridor wall was burned red. The metal guardrail had already softened and melted, turning into drops of molten iron dripping down. The zombies gathered in the corridor fell down one after another. The extremely high temperature burned the flesh and blood of the zombies into coke, leaving only their skeletons still burning. It looks like it will turn into a pile of ashes in a few moments. Everyone waited for half an hour before Wang Mingyang slowly removed the iron plate blocking the stairs. This iron plate, which is a fusion of security doors, stair guardrails, and window railings, has already turned red under the blazing temperature of Suyu's dark flame. If Wang Mingyang hadn't been controlling him with supernatural powers, he would have turned into a puddle of molten iron. When the iron plate was removed, an indescribable disgusting smell hit my face. The 4 people covered their mouths and noses one after another, and kept fanning. I said, I can't walk down this corridor now. The temperature is so high, it's hot to my feet. Li Yuchan glanced at the upstairs and said speechlessly, All the zombies are dead, are you still worried that you can't go upstairs? Let's see if there is anyone on the first floor first. Wang Mingyang rolled his eyes, didn't bother to pay attention to this guy, and walked straight to the side of the dormitory. Suyu, go to the other side with Mu Ningxue and have a look. Be careful. Good. When Suyu heard this, he pulled Mu Ningxue and walked to the other side. Mu Ningxue thought, and an ice shield quickly appeared next to Suyu. Hey, where am I going? Seeing that no one was paying attention to him, Li Yuchan had no choice but to turn around and follow Wang Mingyang. You and I, take the time to look for anyone. Wang Mingyang glanced at him, activated his metal power, and pushed open the dormitory door. Okay, you have the final say. Li Yuchan shrugged, used his telekinesis to unscrew the door lock, and kicked it over. The door of the dormitory opened wide, and a dark figure rushed towards me from inside. Li Yuchan said Fuck Tai's spiritual mind was activated instantly, and the female zombie wearing only underwear was immediately ejected. The next moment, a flying sword penetrated the female zombie's head like lightning, and her struggling hands and feet suddenly collapsed to the ground. In the dormitory opposite, Wang Mingyang saw clearly the situation inside the dormitory, and the corners of his mouth couldn't help but twitch slightly. Bao Bao, you damn, this is a girls' dormitory. Damn, what's wrong with the girls' dormitory? Can't the girls be from the School of Life Sciences? Li Yuchan also noticed this situation and turned around and retorted. Well, Wang Mingyang was stunned, although he felt something was wrong. But it seems to make some sense. Find someone quickly! Ask which building has students from the School of Life Sciences. Waving his hands helplessly, Wang Mingyang exited the dormitory, which was empty and empty. The two quickly checked the dozens of dormitories on this side, but found nothing but some zombies and cleaned them up. Returning to the stairs, Suyu and Mu Ningxue also came back. The 2 girls shook their heads and found nothing. It seems we can only go upstairs. Wang Mingyang sighed, his eyes drifting upstairs. But the stairs are a little unsafe, Suyu said angrily. The fire was very effective. All the zombies were burned to death, but the stairs were also burned red. They haven't cooled down yet, so I'm afraid they would collapse if I stepped on them. Mu Ningxue can cool down the stairs quickly. However, due to thermal expansion and contraction, the stairs collapsed immediately without stepping on them. It doesn't matter, I have a way. Wang Mingyang smiled slightly and rubbed Suyu's head. Looking at the iron plate discarded aside, Wang Mingyang thought. The iron plate quickly melted and deformed. Under his control, it quickly narrowed and elongated, forming an iron staircase. Control this iron staircase to slowly cover the stairs and quickly solidify. Wang Mingyang stepped onto the steps and stamped his feet, nodding with satisfaction. Brother Mingyang, your power is so practical! Suyu gave a thumbs up happily. The metal control power is indeed more comprehensive than her dark flame power. There are many tricks. Okay, let's go upstairs to find someone. It's getting dark, so be careful for a while. Wang Mingyang smiled calmly and walked upstairs first. Everyone climbed up the metal steps to the second floor. The corridor was charred and black. There were many stumps and severed limbs in the distance that exuded a stench, and blood was splattered everywhere. The 4 of them split up and quickly checked the 30 dormitories on this floor. Still found nothing. There were even 4 zombies locked in 2 dormitories. Good classmates, good best friends stay organized in this life. Most of the dormitory doors were wide open, and many mutilated corpses were crowded in the doorways and corridors. Obviously, when zombies break out, they crowd together and end up harming others and themselves. When zombies break out, the lower the level, the easier it is to annihilate them. Everyone had no choice but to continue searching upstairs as usual. The 4 of them acted separately. Wang Mingyang checked all the way and found nothing. He pushed open the only remaining dormitory at the far side and walked in. There are no zombies inside. It was already dark, but Wang Mingyang's vision had improved a lot after several enhancements. At this moment, I can still clearly see the situation in the dormitory. The 4 beds are hung with pink and white gauze curtains, and various girls' toys are hung all over the bedside. In normal times, this would definitely be a garden that many boys yearn for. But now, Wang Mingyang's eyes focused on the lower desk, where an unkempt girl wearing a nightgown was huddled there shivering and seemed to be muttering something in a low voice. "What's your name? Come out," Wang Mingyang said lightly. But the girl under the desk didn't respond at all, just burying her head and murmuring in a low voice. "I said come out." Wang Mingyang was a little impatient, and his voice suddenly rose. Don't come here. Don't eat me." The girl seemed startled by Wang Mingyang's voice, waving her arms in the air and rubbing the floor with her feet. "I'm not a zombie, I'm a living person. I just have something to ask you." Wang Mingyang stepped forward and pulled the girl up, pinched her shoulders with both hands and shook her hard several times. The girl's true appearance was revealed when she leaned forward and backward. There was a lot of dust on her delicate face, but her eyes looked very dull. The cute dress seemed to have been rolling around on the ground for a long time, and was wrinkled and covered in dust and vomit. Seeing the girl's expression clearly, Wang Mingyang was stunned and silently let go of the girl's shoulder. "There are monsters, eating people. Ran Ran is scared. Ran Ran is going to find her mother. Blood, there is blood everywhere. Wen Jing is still downstairs, and she is still waving to me. But Wen Jing was eaten. So many monsters ate up Wen Jing. Her bones were chewy, crunchy. Ran Ran is so hungry. Hee hee hee, hee 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 hee." The girl had empty eyes, tilted her head, drooled, and had a silly smile on her face. He spat out indistinct words intermittently. Su Yu and the others heard the noise and quickly ran over from other dormitories. At a glance, he saw Wang Mingyang standing in the dormitory, with an unkempt girl in front of him. "Brother Mingyang, she..." Before Su Yu finished speaking, the girl suddenly turned around and looked at her. Then he raised an index finger and put it to his lips. "Shh, don't make a sound, those monsters will hear. The dormitory opposite, Laman Xiaolin. It was just too loud. It was dragged away and eaten by monsters." The girl tilted her head, turned around slowly, and continued to stagger toward the balcony, still murmuring. Su Yu and the other 3 looked at the girl in silence, seeming to understand something, with a hint of sympathy and a touch of sadness in their eyes. "Boss Wang, what should I do?" Liu Chan asked in a low voice with his Adam's apple twitching. Wang Mingyang sighed softly, turned around and walked out the door. "Let's go, she's gone crazy, maybe it's better for her to stay here." Liu Chan and the others trembled slightly when they heard this. This result was within their expectations. But they are so helpless. In fact, they know very well that even if this girl is still normal, Wang Mingyang will definitely not make other choices. In the apocalypse, if you want to survive, you can only rely on yourself. This is something Wang Mingyang reminds others and reminds them time and time again. And a girl who has a mental breakdown. Although alive, still dead. P.S. I wrote the manuscript the night before and uploaded it to Douyin yesterday noon. The famous online historical novelist's new July show, real name, Li Yunfan, died of lung cancer at his home in Kunming on September 27, 2023. Previously, July Xingfan once said that he hopes his words will last longer than his life. Recalling the content of this chapter, there are exactly 4 words at the end. Although alive, still dead. I have an inexplicable feeling that this writer born in the 1990s has created many words that readers can talk about. I believe that his words will be spread for a longer time. New episode in July. Although dead, still alive. I prefer to believe. New episode in July. My soul has traveled to ancient times. No. A young man named Li Yinfan. We are thinking hard about how to help the Han dynasty.